Hey guys, it's Sam, and this is my spoilery discussion for Assassin's Quest by Robin Hobb. As I said, this video will have spoilers in it, so if you haven't read this book, go ahead and check out my spoiler-free review, which is linked on the screen. So I will kind of be going through my thoughts on this book as well as the Farseer trilogy as a whole. I always kind of knew going into this series that this one was not going to be my favorite. I know it is some people's favorites of the entire Realm of the Elderlings series, but I always read this with the intention of really wanting to get to the Live Ship Trader series, and that's the one I kind of have always known I'm going to love. But I wanted the foundation of this series because I wanted to know a lot of what had happened with this. I also planned on continuing with the Realm of the Elderling series, and I knew that Fitz would pop back up in the rest of the series and later parts of the series, so I wanted this foundation with him, and I'm glad that I got that because I really did fall in love with Fitz throughout this series. I didn't quite love him in Assassin's Apprentice, and then I really fell in love with him in Royal Assassin, and I continued to fall in love with him. I just love him and Night Eyes, specifically their relationship, but I also like his relationship with a lot of other people. None of his romantic relationships, but I like a lot of his like found family stuff. So I'm glad that I did start with this series as much as I like it's not that I didn't enjoy it. I think all of the books were 3 stars and above. All of this one would almost be like a 2.5 to a 3 star just because a lot of my enjoyment was like parts of it, but it's not a bad book. I mean, it's a solid 3 because it's really not a badly written story. It's just like a lot of it dragged for me, but let's get into it. So as I said in my review, there is a lot more focus on the skill in this book, and I just don't really care about the skill. Like, I want Fitz to be good at the skill, and he like obviously is, because Kettle makes all these points about, you know, like he had a lot of his skill like deadened by the tea and by like Galen and by a lot of things, and he's still really powerful in it, but I'm just like, I don't actually care that much. Like, I thought before in the series when we weren't really getting explained the skill, I'm like, man, I wish I knew more about the skill, and now that I know more about it, I'm just kind of like, man, I wish we would have had less time with the skill. I just care about the wit so much more as a magic. So I was a little disappointed that about a lot of things about the end of the story, but about really not getting the time that Fitz spent with the people learning more about the wit, but I'll get to that in a little bit because I'm going to talk about all of the end stuff shortly. One thing I really missed about this book was Fitz's connections with other people, and he still obviously had those, but I feel like a lot of this book was him shedding a lot of that because he sort of has to become this new person. He's had a second lease on life. You know, he literally died and was buried, my poor boy, and like lived as a wolf, and then had to come back from that. He has such bad PTSD, and then he can't tell all these people that he's still alive for the most part, and then even people that knew he was alive from that experience have to think he's dead, like Burrich, and I'm just like, why does this have to happen? So his relationships with like Patience and Shade and Burrich and a lot of those people are just either non-existent in this book because they can't know that he's alive, or he has to be like really separated from them, and I just really missed that. Like, I really liked, or even like his relationship with Ketchergan in the Royal Assassin, I really liked, and then obviously these things are different now, and like his relationship with Verity and all of that, and this was all kind of like wrapping all of that up, and I get what that was doing narratively, but I still felt as a reader that I just like missed that, and that I liked so much about that with the second book. And this book just didn't really have that. Like, yes, he found some like new people. Obviously his relationship with Night Eyes continues to be really strong. His like sort of relationship with Starling was interesting. Not my favorite, but like still a little found family thing. And obviously this is the real start of his deep friendship with the Fool, which I loved that. But I just really enjoyed the plethora of people that he had in Royal Assassin. So to see him be stripped of all that again when he like sort of found this family in Royal Assassin, and he's always been just like so alone, and then to have all that gone, I'm just like sad. But like I said, I know this is going to be just sort of like the shift to how he's going to be as an adult and things in the later series. Like, we set up the whole skill bond with him and the Fool. The Fool, you know, the White Prophet and the Catalyst are together, you know, a lot, and they're like big movers and shakers in this world, and so that really is like setting us up for that. And I know that now, especially as a reader that like knows there's more to this series, not as a reader who like just read this as it just came out and is like, is that all we get? But it still is sad for me to have like a lot of that lost. I will say I'm not sad about the loss of Molly or about him like being like, I'm just over Molly. I have never liked their relationship, and I think that the narrative kind of saying that in here, and Verity through Kettle kind of saying like, you're gonna fall in love again, and you don't really love Molly as much as you think that you do. You love the situation that you were in. It was a young love and all of these like emotions and hormones and things. And Fitz doesn't accept that at this point, but like I love that because I'm like, yes, like you're not a good match, like really. And like I hate that she like has his kid, and like I just don't like it. I am kind of okay with the her and Birch thing, although I'm kind of like, I just don't know, because like how much older is he? Because obviously he feels so old in comparison to Fitz, but I think he's actually younger than I feel he is. Like maybe he's more in like his 40s. Well, I've always felt like he was in like his 50s. So that's definitely a thing. And also I just feel like he was such a father figure that for him to be with Molly now, I'm kind of like, oh, but I'm kind of okay with it too. But I just do hope Fitz ends up with somebody else later on that is just a better match for him, because I just don't want him to keep returning to this whole like Molly is everything, and I'm like, she's been everything in this series, but like please don't in the rest of it. And I do know that a lot of people do ship him and the Fool, and I could be into it because obviously they have this like this bond, and I really liked the start of their like real friendship, because I've always known that they're more of a thing later on in the series because I've known the names of the later books in the series. So I've been kind of like waiting for that, and that was starting in Royal Assassin, but I feel like they really got close in this book, and I did really enjoy that. So like I said, I feel like this book really dragged a lot in spots, but I think the thing that makes me most mad about that is that there's so much build up to this conclusion, and then we don't really get to see a lot of it. It just doesn't feel like it has a really good payoff. Like maybe this will have more payoff later on in the series, like the Realm of the Elderling series, but I just don't like that it didn't have the payoff within this book or within this series, because so much of it we're just building up to. I feel like the whole red ships and the forging thing was such a theme here, and then we don't even really get to see how that's resolved and like where that came from. We obviously have that one little chapter heading that's like, forging was because of the dragons, and it's because it's the cyclical thing, you know, the dragons forge people and then they figure out how to forge people in vengeance, and they've just done it, you know, over and over again. I'm like, but that's it? Like that doesn't feel like enough resolution. And then obviously like we didn't get to see a lot of the dragons like cleaning house, you know, like we have this whole buildup of making these dragons and getting the elderlings and all of that, and then it's just like a lot of off-page or like one sentence like they, you know, they did this, and we're like, but we didn't even get to see it. Even the Regal death was just like not super fulfilling. Like the Regal and the Will stuff, like some of the stuff with the people that he killed earlier in the book who were the guards that beat him, some of that stuff was even more fulfilling. Like the guy that he poisons, I was just like, yes, because that was like really fulfilling, and I wanted more of that from the Regal situation. I feel like the Regal thing happened in like a sentence, and I had to reread it and be like, wait, did that really just, is that it? Because I feel like it's been building up to this whole time, you know, like he went after Regal multiple times in this book and got caught multiple times, and it was just like this repetitive cycle, and then for it to just be like over, like I know there's a message in that, like I know that that's probably what Robin Hobb was trying to say, but like it didn't feel satisfying. And the other thing that I hate that happened off page is that he goes with the other like witted people, like the old blood people, and like learns things, and he says that in like the epilogue, and I'm like, but what'd you learn? Like, I just want to know what happened there. And he's like, Night Eyes and I did that and whatever. I'm thinking that the end of this book is actually later on in the series, and that we'll see more of that in the later books in the series, like maybe the Fitz and the Fool or whatever, the Tawny Man trilogy, because in this book, it said that like Night Eyes was like gray muzzled and like getting old, and I'm pretty sure Night Eyes is still with him, I think, in the later books. So I'm hoping that it goes back and tells us what happened there, because I'm the most mad about the old blood stuff, about the witted stuff. I'm like, listen, I had all the stuff about the skill, I just want to know more about the wit and their time spent with those people, and I want to see it. So give me that. So hopefully we do. So I know that a lot of things that happen in this book are going to be really important for later on in the series, with more of the things that happen in this world and whatever. But it still doesn't change the fact that this didn't feel satisfying, because we didn't get all of that wrap up after all this build up of like so many pages in this book and in the rest of the series for, like I said, the Forged Ones, the dragons, like Regal, all of it. But it is a conclusion, you know, like it is like that part of the plot is concluded, that part of the story, that part of the world. So I am very excited to finally move on to Live Ship Traders. That again is the series that I started Robin Hobb for. I'm so glad to have known Fitz and to know what's going on with him and everything, but I'm very excited to see how the things that happened here affect other parts of the world and get into that series. So those are my thoughts on Assassin's Quest. Comment below, let me know your thoughts. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see all of you guys soon. Bye.